Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of the Orville Files. Today we're going to demystify the entire operations of Orville and how they have been fooling the entire planet in the name of a spiritual institution and why so much of protection is given by various governments and crimes are given a goodbye. I had put up an article on June 24th. It was basically a chart called Orville Organizational Malpractices. People did not understand it properly and they asked me to make a video simplifying it in words. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Now, Orville International is a worldwide network aiming at the support of the development of Orville in all its aspects. It was founded in 1983 and is legally registered in the Netherlands with a representation in 34 countries around the world, collecting donations for Orville activities, which is a part of India, showing the development of villagers and Indian public and retaining approximately 10%. I had asked in an RTI for the annual accounts of Orville International Centers because in the end, they are collecting donations for a statutory body under the government of India, and they should declare the amount of donations they are collecting there and how much they are retaining and how much they are giving to Orville. And as usual in Orville, RTIs don't get a proper reply. The Orville Foundation Act was enacted in 1988. Now let us look at Section 3 and 4 of the Orville Foundation Act. Section 3 was that all activities of Orville in any which way whatsoever, which is either under the interest of the Sri Aurobindo Society or trust or any other body, shall be transferred and vest in the central government. But Orville International, which is registered in Netherlands in 1983, was not made a part of Orville. And of course, since the donations are being collected offshore, Indian government has absolutely no say in it. Now let us look at Section 4.1, that is the general effect of vesting. Basically, it states that all lands, all fixed assets and powers, trusts, bodies, machinery of Orville are now a part of the central government. Power or control of the society, trust or body, whether within or without India, and all books of accounts, registers, maps, plans, and all other documents of whatever nature relating thereto. But Orville International was purposely neglected and kept aside. This makes it a parallel economy with its own clout and lobby, and this is why the Orville International sent a lot of protest letters against the Secretary of Orville Foundation, who is trying to implement law. This is also the reason why so many governments have come and gone since 1988, but Orville has always, tried to manage themselves by evading law. And this does not happen without any magic, but lobbies which are actively working in Delhi in cahoots with Orwellians and Orville International Centers. So now let's look at the next one, Orville Trusts. Now trusts, these are the trusts which hold all activities of Orville, whether commercial or service units collecting donations. The mother had envisioned a centralized system that is one trust. And the whole idea of making the Orville Foundation Act was not just to snatch power from Sri Aurobindo Society, but to ensure that all trustees do not fight with each other and a centralized system is made. But although instead of one trust, it was 34 trusts before the Inquiry Committee Report 2019, and now there are 37 trusts after inclusion of few shell trusts post the Inquiry Committee Report 2019. Kaluveli Environment Education Trust, which was not a part of Orville and had also siphoned donations from the FAMC through an Australian donor to reroute it to buy assets and lands in Nadukuppam, is now a part of Orville. So basically, without criminal action, they are trying to whitewash all these trusts and show that now it is a part of Orville after it has been discovered. This is how Orville has been operating for so many years. Till the time the crime does not come out in the public eye, they will keep hush. When crimes come out in the public eye, they will go all the way out with their lobbies in Delhi to ensure that law does not function. This is why the Inquiry Committee Report 2019 is still in cold shelf in the Ministry of Education. The units and services. These are conducting activities in Auroville, which has selected executives from the resident assembly and take profits home. There is absolutely no proper accounting and management, and money is taken for personal use. But what is really appalling is that the current working committee of the Auroville Foundation also in an open meeting stated that there has been a lot of malpractices in audit, but we will not name or shame the person. Please remember that Auroville is a public project and is funded by the public, and the public gives free labor to them, and it is a statutory body under the Government of India, which apparently is not answerable at all. Now let us look at the resident assembly. Now there are 2,000 odd Aurovillians, and this also happened after the register of residents was actually properly filled by the Secretary of Auroville Foundation by a door-to-door check. It was never done. A census of Auroville was never done so far. They are selected after a 2 to 3 year process of volunteering a newcomer, paying for their stay and living, and give free labor to Auroville units. People who usually come to Auroville are seeking for some kind of spiritual path. So they leave everything from their countries or from their cities, wherever they are from. They shift completely to Auroville. They donate their blood, sweat, and money to Auroville. And instead of proper ethics, the executives are taking profits home, although they tell the world that everything that happens in Auroville is voluntary service. Now, very few partake in the selection process, and people with vested interests in the working groups are usually the ones who are spearheading the resident assembly. And approximately 300 people of the chelas or the friends or the buddies or the families of those people who are in vested interest in working committee are the only ones who actually partake in the selection process. I'd also prayed that the government should make compulsory voting of every Aurovillian to go and partake in the selection process. And most of them are not aware of the law and low level of education, because Auroville schools do not follow right to education, which also means that Auroville schools do not give a certificate for higher education in India, and scholarships are awarded for a selected few. Many of them do not follow the ideals of the mother, and those who do not follow the ideals of the mother are actually encouraged by the entry service. And these Aurovillians are also conducting business and commercial activities without foreign direct investment on volunteer visa and taking 70% odd home, while the mother said that 100% should be given to the community. So these 2,000 odd Aurovillians have come together to make an anti-national state in the name of autonomy and self-governance, saying that it is an esteemed spiritual project backed up by the UNESCO and the Government of India. Why would they go ahead and do any kind of policies where statutory laws of our country is applied on them and the autonomy goes off? This is the reason why, because everyone has been benefiting with this channel in the name of a spiritual experiment and misquoting Sri Aurobindo and the mother. After the Auroville Foundation Act was enacted in 1988, Auroville now becomes a statutory body under the Ministry of Education, Department of Higher Education. Now, Auroville Foundation also has a governing board represented by a chairman and secretary who overlooks the administration, law of the land, and mother's ideals. But Auroville Foundation has been working as an NGO, not as a government office, and trying to rally things which are absolutely anti-law and anti-social ethics in the name of a great spiritual project. Now, working groups selected from resident assembly through selection process, they administer Auroville's assets, finance, housing, liaison, legal, media, security, and other essentials for the township. And Aurovillians with vested interests are in the group, so hence they make laws and policies which is beneficial for them and not for the project in general. We can also see that most of the people who are actually filing cases against the Secretary of Auroville Foundation and also going about on media and social media, bad-mouthing her, is because they have vested interests. All those who have been protesting against the implementation of Crown Road, which is just a fraction of the master plan, all had vested interests. Now, human rights violations and crimes. There are a lot of good residents in Auroville, and most of them are my best friends, but they live in fear of housing, visa, and livelihood. Crimes are not reported, victims are harassed, no proper justice system, and crimes in Auroville are covered up inside, and if it comes out in media, it is diluted and through undue influence on investigative agencies. And always the Auroville institution backs away, stating that this is not, our problem. And this is the modus operandi of these powerful Aurovillians, who are directly and indirectly the cause for the criminal gangs in the area, for the murders, for the attacks and the heckling of so many people since 1975. Also during the emergency of 1975, absolutely no crimes were reported from Auroville, although there were grievous crimes including murders which occurred. Liaison activities with NIA, MHA, Prime Minister's Office, ministers for undue favors, giving edited evidence of me, and getting illegal businesses into the framework of Auroville. These people also protect, those residents who are doing small petty crimes and who have been asked to go out from the FRRO. So this person called Francois Gauthier, who is a French journalist, who also talks a lot about Hindutva and is very close with P gurus and the Modi government, is the one who is doing all these undue influence and favors, trying to quash central agency investigation and trying to take undue favors from the government of India. This is why even if Aurovillians have goodwill, they never want to speak up because they would be victimized, because the lobby which can protect them can also persecute them. A lawyer of Auroville actually confessed to me that even the state police and the local FRR office is on their payroll. Of course, there has been no direct CAG audit on all accounts and activities and personal accounts of Aurovillians, and this continues. Now let us look at what they have done with the donations which has been given by the public across the world. Donations are not used for purposes for which it was taken, and diversion to personal projects without approval of the governing board. A good example of this is Kaluveli Environment Education Trust, and there are a lot of other such shell trusts and private limited companies. Donations are invested in mutual funds. Now the Indian law states that donations cannot be invested in mutual funds, and of course no approval was taken by the governing board or the resident assembly for this. There are unapproved projects, unauthorized works to architects and Aurovillians. Now let us look at master plan, housing and land. Aurovillians have connection with land mafia criminal gangs, encroachers, and make fringe benefits. Land belongs to the government of India, but it is being sold and given on rent instead of free housing for Aurovillians, newcomers, and volunteers. Documents are being fabricated and no physical ordinance and no criminal action also on this criminal gang activities. Many gangs are thriving due to activities of Auroville, keeping the master plan at a moot point. Cover-ups and threats are given by working groups to people who reveal corruption. Now, Benami property is an asset. Aurovillians are not to hold personal assets, but have collected assets for so many decades in the name of Auroville. Aurovillians have been hiding their personal properties, and the source of funds are from donation frauds. Foreigners are investing in lands and businesses without statutory laws. Post the inquiry committee report, many of these properties have been attached to trust to show that now it is a part of Auroville. Shell trusts and companies. Aurovillians have personal trusts, private limited companies, and soliciting donations, using Auroville as a forefront, and the resident assembly and the governing board are not aware. Auroville's ideals is to work for and only for Auroville. So this concludes the entire organizational malpractices of Auroville since so many years. Now I think the public is quite aware as to why so much of clout from lobbies to ministers and Delhi is in Auroville, because this is how they have been operating since 1988. And a parallel economy called Auroville International seems to be spearheading a lot of this. The ex-chairman of Auroville Foundation, Dr. Karan Singh, was also quite well aware of this, and we heard that he is doing his level best to ensure that no criminal action happens, no works audit, or no forensic audit on all these accounts, shell trusts, and Benami properties occur. So folks, Auroville is a great spirit envisioned by the mother, but although what is happening now in South India is absolutely anti-Auroville, and whatever they say online and preach to people is absolutely untrue. So folks, changes in Auroville are underway, but this ends our episode of demystifying the entire economic and criminal nexus of Auroville for so many years. Satyameva Jayate, Jai Hind.